Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Our special programming tonight is going to be Spanda from Board of Directors. So they're here to present data from LIFT. It was gathered from the most recent campus-wide survey, and it's going to show the effectiveness of the LIFT program, and I think it'll be nice for all of you guys to see the engagement that this program has had, the program that you guys approved. Also, I think it would be nice to inspire future big inspirational programs for next year. So if you're thinking about starting a big program like LIFT, maybe this will be an inspiration for you guys. So without further ado.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Celia Brazel.
And I am Will Pavlik.
And so the last time we were in front of Senate was back when we got confirmed in July time.
And I think just to do a little bit of a callback to get all of us familiar again, one of the things that Celia and I brought to the table was the fact that some members of Senate thought we may have been dating or we may have been siblings.
That wasn't true then. It's still not true now. We're just really good coworkers and good friends.
But our camaraderie actually has been really powerful, and I think that this presentation about the effectiveness of the LIFT program will show that.
Absolutely. So starting off, like Izzy said, or Vice President Weber said, we sent out a survey a few weeks ago, and these are the responses. So this next slide will be about that.
And this is paired in this presentation with data from LIFT itself. So this is a combination of what we have gathered from our personal surveys, as well as doing a little bit of an analysis about the actual ride sharing going on. So to start off, we just have three general categories we want to show you about the representation from our respondents. We can see that in the pie chart all the way to the left, it's a fairly even split of first years, second years, third years, and fourth years. I know that on the big screen it might not be as easy to see the different categories, but representation-wise, we are about a quarter for all major undergraduates on campus. In terms of residencies, it is majority off campus that have responded to this survey, but is paired with a decent split for Greek life and on-campus living as well. And then something about this is that a majority of female respondents were involved in this survey, but everybody's been included.
So our big reason why we wanted to figure out or send out the survey was to figure out why were people using this. And so we came up with our own few responses, starting with distance, too cold, accessibility, things of that nature. And the top three reasons that our respondents said was distance, personal safety, and too cold. And then I think the next slide puts it a little bit more bluntly as well.
Yeah, I think I just want to add on to this and say that something that President Jensen has instructed us to do, and is something that's very positive. We've been tracking this since the start of the semester, and we plan to send out another survey towards the end. So that too cold reason, we're interested to see how it will evolve throughout the rest of the semester, and that can help us guide pricing and different accessibilities.
And then I think this slide puts it well of the true reasons why people tend to be taking this. We all know that drinking occurs on this campus, and we want everyone to get home safely and no one get behind the wheel in any situation like that. So we also had a response where people could put in their reasoning if it didn't fit with any of the reasons that we put in there. So these are some of them, most of them involving drinking, no DUI. That's awesome. Don't want those, weather and distance, so maybe a combination of a few of the options that we listed. But the main one was they were drinking and wanted to get home safely.
So then going to their experience, we can see that, and part of this is not really something that we can control in terms of the availability of Lyft drivers in our area. I know there's a little bit of an incentive that we can partner with Lyft for this, but in the end, we're undergraduate students here benefiting from the jobs of people around the area. But overall, the people that responded to the survey said that they had that availability met when they needed it. And this will come up a little bit later in our presentation as well in terms of the overall feedback that people had about their experience with the Lyft drivers. But that actually follows with this slide here.
Yeah, so starting off, this graph is a little difficult to read. We apologize. So we were asking how people's experience was using this program. We broke it down based on their gender that they put in. So starting off, we can see that from the left, we have bad, which is a pretty low amount of people said that they had a bad experience. About equal male, female, almost no non-binary, I prefer not to say. Then we have the majority of people are in good and great, again with a strong amount of female and male, and then a few non-binary and prefer not to say. And then thankfully the lowest category was very bad, which is great to see that most people were good, great, or neutral. That's where you want to keep people. So clearly people are having generally a good experience between all genders that have been represented in the survey.
And I think if you wanted to look at this in a little bit more of an artful way, I know we are more data people, but the extremes of this graph are the people that had negative responses. So I think that's something that's really good about our program. And then in terms of safety, I know we had a fairly even split, but majority female respondents. Vast majority felt safe through this program, so I think that's a good thing that we've been able to sustain a feeling of safety on campus, be that by using the rides to get places as well as during the rides themselves.
I also think it's important to say that, especially if we're talking about women drinking and getting home safely, that is very important and something that can be extremely terrifying to happen. And so I think it's awesome to see that most people who have filled out the survey, given that the majority was women and a lot of people were saying the reason was drinking, it's so awesome to see that a majority of people felt very safe using this program.
But with that, we are now going to transition into more of the analytics behind the data we get from Lyft itself. And so to start off with, I think we are providing a discount on rides through Lyft. And you can see on the graph above me or Celia that most rides come out to be below $15 that people are paying. You'll see this in a little bit, but one of the biggest complaints that people had when responding to our surveys was that when they were looking for rides, the price of Lyft with the discount was not comparable to other ride-sharing services like Uber, but those were in the minority because, as we can see from the people or from the actual ride data, those who took advantage of our program were experiencing fairly low prices.
And additionally, this is prior to the $7 discount. This was all data using just a $5 discount, and then it got up to $7 like a few weeks after we made this. So that's a good thing to point out.
So then I think another way of looking at this, the base charge that we were looking at was about $8 per ride with a $2.5 increase per mile that you were traveling. And one of the bigger complaints that was given about the program was the overall range or the radius that we could use for Lyft. And I think based off of, like Celia said, we've increased the amount of subsidy that participants are receiving. Understanding the radial distance from Purdue for places such as the Lodge on the Trail or apartment complexes that aren't immediately around campus, I think having information such as this about distance traveled and cost provides great insight into how the program's being used. Again, a lot of it's focused at shorter trips between 1 and 2 miles with less people going further away from campus, and it's all in a relatively concentrated cluster around cost. So it's not like there are significant increases in cost during the time of use.
And so we've talked about the data, but we did have places in our survey where people could put in their thoughts. And so this is the part of our presentation where we will hear the quotes, the words from the students. But also remember that these are individual people, and we had a little over 350 responses. So just remember that while we look into people's opinions.
And I'll say there's a decent amount of text that we've tried to highlight the important parts of, but feel free to go into the SharePoint, and we can also find a way to email this PowerPoint out to you all so that you can take the time to look at these individually.
So starting off, as we kind of said before, it's still too expensive. And for these 3 points that we have, you highlight more expensive, even with the discount. One of the biggest complaints we saw was that Lyft, because of the increased usage with this program, the costs just rise. That's how Lyft's algorithm works. So there might be times where there's high traffic and Uber might cost a little bit less than Lyft does, even with the discount. I would think that the best thing the cabinet did was that they increased the discount. We're not here to give opinions, but I guess we can argue that that bullet point might be crossed off, at least for now. We can wait until we have data based on the $7 discount, so the $5 discount, and see if there's a change. And then another one was extending the radius that we already said. So these bullet points have a bit more of like personal anecdotes of maybe where people live. I know around the Happy Hollow area, people were struggling. And at least a lot of the responses we saw, I mean, people trying to get their groceries, doing things that aren't just, oh, I'm at Harry's and I don't want to go home. Like, I don't want to walk all the way. It's like actual living purposes, which I think is also important to remember when we're talking about this program, that this is truly helping people live their everyday lives. And just something to remember about possibly extending the radius.
And that goes for the times as well. Based off of daylight savings and springing forward, some of those hours change. So I think we are expecting to see a little bit of a change in when people are using the program further through this semester. But then we also had some ideas, or some novel ideas from the student respondents. And I think the main point for why Celia and I are showing you these quotes and anecdotes is to say we have survey results and data analysis to maybe not counter, but provide a larger or a different side of the story behind this program. And since you all represent different colleges for the undergraduates, you have a voice in being able to spread the word about the effectiveness of this program and maybe present the facts about how this program is being used.
And lastly, we want to end on a high note. While we've been talking about how to improve the program, all of these things, overwhelming majority of people really, really like this program, are very grateful for it. As you can see, please don't take this away, kind of puts it perfectly. This has helped people a lot, and now it's awesome that you all and just Purdue student government gets to better it, but I think everyone should pat themselves on the back that this was passed and is helping people right now. So I think that's an awesome thing to remember.
Thank you for your time. I hope this was informative. Does anybody have any immediate questions, or Vice President Weber? No questions? No, we're done with that? Oh, okay. We don't know your names that well. We're sorry. Sydney.
So great presentation. Loved hearing it. Thank you very much. I was just kind of curious. Has Lyft said anything about like what they're going to try to do to help close that gap in other ride-sharing services? I know you said that we've introduced like the $7, and I think that is amazing. But arguably, I mean, a larger discount could lead to more students using it, creating a larger gap in the prices. So, like, has Lyft said anything about us like accidentally messing with the economy of like other ride-sharing?
So I'm gonna answer this to my knowledge, and then I would, of course, refer you to President Jensen and the rest of Cabinet. But I know that there are active conversations between Lyft and Purdue student government about ways of, say, increasing the amount of drivers in the area, and whatever algorithm that they use in order to take driver availability, say student demand and time of day, those are all factors that we can only partly control. And so to the effect of, is our subsidy creating an increased demand for drivers? Possibly, but we don't have I would say we don't have a significant impact on that end.
I think also another good point is that a lot of other universities, or maybe not a lot, a few other universities have this program in place and it works for them, and this was kind of a trial run for us. So there are other models that we can also look at and try to implement. I'm unsure at the time how those work, but this isn't the first time Lyft has dealt with this, so I believe that they would be willing to help make some changes there. Yeah, Lily.
I apologize for my tardiness, so I might have missed this. Just to clarify, the $15 data point, that's only rides taken, not the average of rides quoted, correct?
Correct. So the data that we've been using for this graphic and this graphic are for actual rides taken. And so something that I was mentioning about the comments, some of the user feedback has been, I'm not going to take this Lyft at the discounted rate because it is not financially viable as compared to Uber. But we wanted to highlight that for the rides that have been taken by students, it is comparable. Yeah.
And then follow up to that, and this might be a question for President Jensen, is there a way that we can get the data from Lyft of prices that are quoted and those average prices that are quoted, just so that we have a more holistic view of what this program is doing?
We have access to a limited set of data. It's vast, but it is limited, and that is not something that was included. So we could reach out to them, but it's not in what's readily available to us.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you guys so much for coming out. As an engineering major, love to see the statistics and everything. That being said, I know that you highlighted how safe people felt with Lyft and with the program in general, but with those few that didn't feel safe, were there any responses saying why they didn't? Is there something that we could do to help improve the safety, or is it primarily just maybe not trusting Lyft, Uber, and ride-sharing services?
None of the comments explained why people felt safe, which I think is very unfortunate, and unfortunately we just can't get that information out of people. We read through every single comment we got, and there was nothing talking about the safety portion, which is disheartening, and all we can do is make assumptions, but I don't want to sit up here and make assumptions that you all can also make. So right now we don't have information on that. But we can also try to get more in our next survey.
One question about your qualitative data rather than your quantitative data. Has there been a consideration of coding that qualitative data into different categorizations so that we can get more information about like what percentage are more negative comments versus positive comments?
We did more of a scan through just because there are some responses that are like, PSG's not fun. And then there's also, no, it's true that people have responded like that. And so we could attempt to categorize that if that's something that would be beneficial to the organization. Also,
to be fully honest, we weren't sure we were going to be presenting this in front of Senate when we made it. We kind of just made it for fun. So we'll definitely keep that in mind next survey. So we appreciate you all just looking at our silly little fun presentation we made in our meeting.
Yeah, to reiterate again, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. The presentation looks great, 10 out of 10 presentation. I guess I have a couple of data questions that I'm not sure if you gathered and might not be here, or at least might be suggestions for further surveys. Was there any statistics on exactly when rides were taken? Like, were more people doing it at 8, 9, 10, 11? What sort of, I don't know if you have a distribution of when times were taken?
Yes, I worked on that. It wasn't included in the slide because it wasn't finalized, but it was, in terms of the days that we offer the program, Saturday's the biggest hit, and that's most likely because Friday is off. A number of hours offered on Friday and Sunday aren't as large as those offered on Saturday, but then it was, if I remember correctly, more of a steady increase from the time that it begins to be offered in the evening, and then peaks at around 12 to 1 and then falls off afterwards. So that's what the nighttime looks like. I can get that to you, though.
And this is also prior to the time change as well. So this is like we're January, February kind of data.
And then my second part of this question was sort of, I know it's not included in this data, but maybe a suggestion for when another survey comes out is, I know the things that are brought up by my constituents, sounds like a robot, that have brought up by my constituents has been that sort of gap in like an Uber rating versus a Lyft rating. It'd be really interesting to see how big that gap is, and sort of like if a $7 discount sort of impacts that, or is it too big to overcome even an increase in discount? Something to look for the future. I know it's been brought up to me, so I think it'd be really valuable to include in data like this.
Yeah, I think for our next survey, that would be something that we can include.
Any more questions?
All right. Well, thank you for letting us present.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we're actually going to have our presidential and vice presidential tickets come down and kind of give a little, this is who I am, this is what we're running for spiel. We did this last year, and I think it was pretty helpful. So Sydney, Michael, Andrew, and Shai, would you like to come down? Yeah, sorry about that. This is just the prime Senate meeting before elections.
No grievances.
Okay.
Okay, hey everybody. Thank you for letting us speak. Sorry that was awkward. We're not going to file grievances against each other. Andrew and I are obviously running together. I'm running to be the next president of Purdue Student Government. Andrew is running to be the next vice president. We kind of wanted to talk to you about our campaign pillars. We have 3. So the first is connection, second is support, and third is transparency. First is connection. We want to be able to recruit more students and expand the diversity within Purdue Student Government. We think this would be a very great thing to have. Maybe, hopefully, put PSG in a better, more brighter light and also be more effective for the student body. We also, within connecting students, we want to put on some special events. We've thought about having some really big things like Olympic Games or even like a flash mob, something like that. Something that's fun, can bring people together, all Boilermakers put together, and even within PSG, get all of us together, have fun, be a whole shebang. And then for support, sorry, I was like, what's the next one? For supporting students, we kind of focus on 3 different things. 1, preventative mental health strategies. So I know that a lot of people are focused on mental health and ways to combat that after there's a problem, right? We want to be able to do things before, have a more inclusive environment before there's like an actual issue that needs intervention, right? And so we're going to be looking next year, if we win, to explore what preventative mental health can look like on this campus. And that also ties into physical health. I know that there are a lot of concerns with the co-rec and it's how busy and crazy it is. So we also want to explore alternatives to the co-rec, maybe looking at residence halls, seeing if we can partner with them to see if they can put in gyms in their basements, or if there are funds available to be able to expand that. Lastly, we want to talk about livable wages. I know that there was talks of this administration with a $15 minimum wage. We want to be able to explore that next year. And if a $15 minimum wage is not feasible, see what we can do to help Boilermakers feel like they're also financially supported. I'll let Andrew talk about transparency.
Yeah, so our last topic is transparency, and we're really focused on transparency both with the student body, but also within PSG. So specifically with the student body, obviously we are always trying to get our voice out there. My role right now, press secretary, I'm constantly trying to publicize PSG. And so that's an initiative that's really close to my heart. And then also with a specific issue with our spending, and then as well as grant money spending. We want to make sure that the student body knows exactly where those funds are going and being very clear about how these funds are being spent. And then specifically within PSG, it's just better communication between branches and making sure that our executive and cabinet has a really strong line of communication with the people who are actually communicating with more students. So that's really what we're focused on. Our transparency is a bit twofold.
Thank you for letting us speak. We'll pass it over to Sydney and Michael now.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. I'll keep this short and sweet the best I can. First, my name is Michael Brown. I'm currently a College of Engineering Senator, majoring in mechanical engineering.
My name is Sydney Terrell. I am the vice president candidate. I know, none of you know me by now, but I am in the College of Ed, and I am also a junior.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, our campaign is called Renew Purdue. Pretty catchy, I know. Hopefully it sticks in your mind a little bit. So each of those stands for something. So R, respect. E, environment. N, nurture. E, again, engagement. And W is wholeness. And then Sydney can go into a bit of the pillars that kind of support what Renew Purdue stands for and what we really want to try and accomplish next year if we're able to win.
Yeah, so I'm a sucker for catchy slogans. So, Renew Purdue is pretty much all I'm going to say for the rest of my life. We have 4 main pillars that have kind of sprouted from our oh so catchy slogan. The first one is community, and it's something I'm extremely passionate about. That's why it's one of our, well, no, it's not one of our top pillars. They're all equally important. But I want to see more connectedness on campus. So not only in PSG as a whole with like our different branches, but seeing different orgs on campus that kind of support either the same general idea, the same, they support the same minority group, they support the same college, getting those people to work together to have like bigger events instead of a bunch of little events where it can be hard to get connected to a larger network. A second one we have is student life. I'm sure that's also shocking. Residence halls, student employment, parking, all things that I have aggressively worked on for the last 3 years and will take into my senior year. We have mental health, so we actually are huge into preventative care as well, so I loved hearing that because I know regardless of how it goes, it'll be something that's extremely focused on. But not only preventative care, so how to know if you're getting to that point of needing mental resources, but also longevity care. So you have that initial call with CAPS, right? You get the resources, but what's happening in a week, a month? What's happening at the beginning of next semester? Last but not least, we definitely have mental health. Why am I blanking? I'm having a stroke. I'm sorry. Accessibility, and not only accessibility for the people that you would generally think of, but a big problem that has been brought to us that we want to tackle is accessibility for non-traditional students. So childcare, housing availability, maybe priority class times for when kids might be in school. So those are our 4 pillars. Excuse the fact that I couldn't remember the last one. I've been kind of having a stroke today. But thank you. I'm excited for the opportunity to either participate in the Senate under great leadership or to be a part of great leadership ourselves. So thank you.
Thank you all. Also, if you have any questions for either of us, we are in Senate with you. So feel free to ask questions. All right. Of course.
Alrighty. So back to our regular scheduled program. So hello and welcome everyone. At 7:35 p.m. I will now call this meeting to order. If you are a visitor, please state your name and your reason for being here, if we have any. All right, we will now move into proxy reports. If you are a proxy, please state your name and the senator you are proxying for at this time. All right, seeing none, we can now move into roll call by Secretary Friend.
Senator Ferguson.
Here.
Senator Carnes.
Here.
Hampton.
Here.
Senator Terrell.
Here.
Senator Scudder.
Here.
Senator Cashon.
Here.
Senator Brown.
Here.
Senator Kirkendall.
Absent.
Senator Alkazemi.
Here.
Senator Diaz.
Here.
Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Senator Dodona.
Here.
Senator Bottini.
Absent.
Senator Conrad.
Absent.
Senator Alexander.
Here.
Senator DeLucia Green.
Here.
Senator Famua.
Here.
Senator Sexton.
Absent.
Senator Ackerman.
Here.
Senator Toshik.
Here.
Senator Hansa.
Absent.
Senator Bowman.
Absent.
Senator de Guzman.
Here.
Senator Kirsch.
Here.
Senator Adam.
Here.
Senator Johnson.
Absent.
Senator Feuerstein.
Here.
Senator De Silva.
Here.
Senator Liu.
Here.
Senator Woodruff.
Absent.
Senator Toriani.
Absent.
Senator Rigney.
Absent.
Senator Robinson.
Here.
Senator LaRoche.
Here.
Senator Jane.
All right, now we will move into our land acknowledgement. Purdue Student Government acknowledges the traditional homelands of the indigenous people which Purdue University is built upon. We honor and appreciate the Potawatomi, Delaware, Miami, and Shawnee people who are the original indigenous caretakers. Now, Senators, please rise for your pledge of purpose. Our purpose is to be the voice. Lovely. The minutes for the last meeting were distributed to all via SharePoint. Are there any corrections to the minutes at this time? All right, seeing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. Next, we will go into executive reports. President Jensen, do you have any executive reports at this time?
Yeah, give me a second.
Okay. Do you need someone to go first, or? Okay, I'll go first. So just another reminder, A- is April 4th. For those of you who submitted interest, I will be sending you an email tomorrow with the specifics. And yeah, it'll have the times that we're leaving, the times that we're meeting, and what we'll be doing throughout the day. Also, elections are starting up, as we heard before, so I just want to say best of luck to everyone running, regardless of the position you are running for. And then also in caucus, I know the pro temps mentioned transition plans and that they're due April 12th. But for the YouTube record, I would just like to state if they are not in, you will be giving a public and verbal transition plan in front of everyone. So please make sure you have those in, because the threat is real. Now, President Jensen, do you have any executive reports?
I do. Sorry, I was looking at that lovely LIFT presentation again. So a few things. One, so we had talked about the PSG implementation task crew as Abidemi coined pit crew, and so invitations were sent out for the people that were selected to that, and that's really focused on improving the internal workings of PSG, whether that be support systems or whether that be who's directly reporting to who, such as like comms and tech all reporting to the press secretary, so we have all our communication venues all in one area within PSG, and different aspects of that, looking at member recruitment and retention as well as ownership, and then just overall well-being within PSG. So that's getting started up, and so we're getting that meeting time set up, which is great. Then we'll have 3 meetings for the rest of this school year, and then hopefully transitioning that into that full-time group next year. We also have a spring not retreat, I keep saying that, an end of the year banquet, which will be coming up. Don't have a date for that yet, still looking for spaces, whether that be on campus or off campus. It should be close so people are able to still walk to it. So there will be an RSVP to that, so please RSVP to that. We'll be celebrating our seniors and the different accomplishments that you guys have done over the school year. So it's just a good way to have a good time, celebrate with others. And then that time also the incoming president and vice president and incoming senators will all be able to talk there as well. Last thing is on April 19th, as you guys all know, is when the new administration and senators are coming in. So just we're all excited for that. Like as you said, get your transition documents in or transition plans. I've been harping on all of cabinet to do the same thing. So just looking forward to that, and please get that done.
Do any of our other cabinet officers have executive reports? Treasurer Wiseman?
There's a lot of money talk tonight, so I'll save most of it. Just want to put a reminder out there that SOGA Period 4 applications for student organization grants is due April 3rd, so coming up in a couple weeks. That's events June 1st through September 30th. So if orgs are wanting to have welcome back events or things like that, and they're asking you where to get money, Period 4 is when they need to apply.
All right. Pro Tem Dodona?
I know we've been talking about this a lot, but we really are coming to the end of the Senate sessions for this year. We have one more regular session and then the transition meeting. So if you have not thought about your duties, you are late. So start thinking about them now, make your plans. I know that the spreadsheet is a little bare, so make sure you're doing those as you complete them, filling out the spreadsheet as you complete them, and if you haven't gotten started, this is your wake-up call to get started now. Yes.
All right, got some elections updates for everyone. The ballot went out in the boiler update yesterday. Should have gone out the day prior. That was totally on me. I apologize. We're working on getting that on the Instagram as soon as possible. Online campaigning began yesterday. We've got a Meet the Candidates event tentative for March 28th, so that's the first day of open campaigning. Just for people to be able to come out and meet all of like the presidential, vice presidential, and Senate candidates. Open campaigning begins March 28th, like I said. And we've got our debate on the books in Lynn 1136 with Vice Provost McCuskey. Really excited about that. We've got voting from the 3rd through the 6th. And if you're willing to help table for those polling locations, because we're going to need a lot, I'd really appreciate the help. And then results are out April 13th. So happy to talk with anyone after the Senate session if you have any questions or if I can be of any assistance. So thank you guys.
Yeah. For those senators or other folk that might be at the Meet the Candidate nights, do you have any idea what time that might be for those that have to request off work?
Late afternoon, evening.
All right, are there any other executive officer reports? All right, seeing none, we can now move into committee reports, starting with internal affairs.
I doesn't really have many updates since our last meeting. We will be getting our updated Senate standing rules on the floor April 5th. That's the goal, and I firmly believe that's going to happen. Other than that, and I'm trying to figure out office hours for the new senators. So.
Financial affairs.
Yeah, so FA's just been trucking along as usual with small grants. There may or may not be another bill on the floor to get more money. Yeah. Excuse me, that's all for right now.
Perfect. Campus and student resource affairs.
Well, since the last time I was here, we successfully completed our MHAW event. Would be kind of awkward if I had to give an update that was like, it didn't happen. So that went great. We gave out everything that we planned to, which is always swag money. Other than that, we haven't really met because everyone's been on spring break. So looking forward to Friday. We're going to start going through those survey responses. If you guys haven't taken CSRA's survey yet, please do. It was sent out both in the last email and this week's email that Andrew sends out. So take a gander at that. Give us some responses besides the 16 I think we have. And we'll try to write some legislation based off of that for the last session.
Perfect. University academic affairs.
Yeah, so kind of going off our last legislation that got passed, we want to create a legislation of maybe putting something where students are more aware of this, the last pages of the syllabi as like recognized. And so I'm going to contact Jenna Rickus to ask her for any advice on what we should do. We even thought about putting a bright space quiz type thing, kind of like an evaluation that won't go away until you actually take the quiz of like what the last few pages of the syllabi are, so students will be familiar with those resources. I contacted Jeffrey Elliott, the Director of Advising, to ask for any updates from last time we met last semester, and then anything he would like to see from us as the end of the year comes around. And then finally we talked about like evaluations that's coming around the corner, and just finding a time to just pass out flyers that we created in the past 2 years about how students should take evaluations and how to take evaluations, what to say during the when it comes out. And so we just talked about when to do that, probably at the end of April when the evaluations.
Mm-hmm. Ad hoc committee reports. Yes.
So Pride has been working on a very large event for the past about a little under 2 weeks at this point. This will be a block party to eradicate transphobia, which will be tomorrow. It will be tomorrow, March 23rd, from 6 to 10 p.m., both in Stewart Center as well as on Memorial Mall. We are super, super excited to have this opportunity to uplift and empower trans voices at Purdue. This event will be a four-pronged approach with a resource fair, drag performance, arts and crafts, and general activities for students to be participating in, as well as a art display. In addition to that, just to expand upon our drag performance, there will be 4 local performers as well as our special guest queen, Eureka O'Hara, who we are so excited to be able to bring to campus. I encourage you all to, 1, volunteer for our event if you have the capacity and the time. We appreciate any support that we can get from senators. I know and trust you all and would love your volunteering support. And then just come. If you're a member of the student body, if you're a senator, come have fun. It's going to be a fantastic time that will celebrate and just overall display the love and life in our trans community.
So excited for Eureka. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the safer side, we got our newsletter sent out this week. Big thanks to Press Secretary Skunas for working with us on that and finally getting it out there. In terms of some legislation updates, we recently had our Title IX false allegation and incapacitation legislation that passed this Senate be presented at University Senate for discussion, and it will be voted on next University Senate, which is really good. There weren't too many objections, which is fantastic. So hopefully that will be moving forward smoothly. Additionally, April is Sexual Violence Awareness Month, which makes it a very big month for SAFER. We'll have a couple events within there. Unfortunately, I don't have too many timing details, but I can give you a couple. So I mentioned the Sexual Violence Prevention Roundtable a lot, figuring out the dates with that, working with the administrators to finalize dates. We're doing a Denim Day pants event, which will be April 20th from 5 to 7. It's an event that brings awareness around sexual violence, and we're hoping to partner with some sustainability organizations to offer pants for people who don't want to paint their own, to have some more involvement there, as well as we'll have our consent tea party again in the spring. So big events coming up for SAFER. Hopefully next meeting I'll have a little more dates for you all.
Yeah, so for the Black Boilermaker Experience Committee, ad hoc committee, we've had some lulls in engagement, but I have 2 of my committee members this week working on revamping outreach into Black student organizations and getting more interviews finished before the end of the semester. I think over the summer we're gonna do a lot of editing, and hopefully we'll have a final product by fall 2023.
Perfect. Any other ad hoc committee reports? Yeah.
Chief Justice Roberts want to give parking? Is he here? He's here, right?
Yeah.
Go for it. Minding you.
Hi. So our first meeting is going to be this Saturday at 11 a.m. We are going to be electing our chair, and if you would like to be involved with that committee, just come. It'll be on Zoom. The link is posted in Slack. But just go. We'll talk about what we'll be doing for this semester and then our plans for the future. But I would encourage everyone who is interested about parking and those kinds of issues to just come and join our Zoom call.
Yeah. Press Secretary Skunas, would you like to talk about FSCL?
Yes, I will. FSCL is still in the works. I'm currently in the process of putting together a committee based on my personal network within FSCL, and then I've also reached out to all council presidents. So that is coming together, and my hope is for the next meeting to be within the next 2 weeks.
Lovely. Yes.
No MHA updates, but thank you all for participating and doing your events. It was a fantastic week. I know Jaden appreciated all of the support and all of your guys' time the week before spring break. So just really thank you all. In addition to that, Disabled Community recently had an event in collaboration with the DSU. I believe they were doing a just general sharing as well as just talking about experiences and how that can relate to legislation and advocacy in the future. If you have any more questions about that, reach out to Claire, as always. Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the MHA update for people who aren't here. Just so everyone is aware, there's going to be a conversation the next couple of weeks about sort of what went well with MHA, what didn't go well with MHA, what should change in the future. You all participated in it pretty actively, so if you have any concerns, questions, or things you want changed, or things you really liked and want to participate in those conversations, please reach out to either Lily myself or Jaden. Those will be coming up in the next couple of weeks as we sort of plan for what Hall looks like in the next couple of years.
Perfect. Any further committee reports at this time? All right, seeing none, we can now move it into informal discussion. Do I hear any informal discussion at this time? All right, seeing none, we can now move into old business. Do I hear any old business at this time? Seeing none, we can now move into new business. Do I hear any new business at this time? Are we sure? There's at least a few.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2256, the 2023-2024 Student Fee Activity Report. So this bill is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the author of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. So Sean, would you like to start? Or Treasurer Wiseman, I should say.
Thank you, Vice President Weber. The 59-page document in front of you is a culmination of over 30 hours of work and presentations from the SFAB board, so thank you for reviewing it. To get into it, the SFAB board meets once a year to allocate the student activity fee, which is collected from each undergraduate student. Any registered student organization or university department can apply for a grant from SFAB. It's reviewed by the board and then comes through the Senate for review. This year, this grant cycle is funding events in 2023 to 2024 school year, but we met in February. We reviewed 77 applications and presentations totaling $5.26 million in requests. Unfortunately, we only have about $1.475 million to give out. So that $4 million difference, the board had to decide a way to bring it down in an unbiased and viewpoint neutral way. So a quick summary of the process that was used. First, the board went through each application, finding line items that were in violation of the SFAB guidelines or line items that they saw would not be good stewardship of the student activity fee. And from that point, each application was narrowed down to its most costly initiative. That lump sum amount of the most costly initiative was then funded at 55%, which brought us down to the 1.475 number. I say lump sum of most costly initiative. Many applications had multiple initiatives. They can still spend funds on those other initiatives. Just the lump sum they were provided was 55% of their most costly initiative. So hopefully the groups benefit more from that. As was covered in the email, the Senate vote on if you like the numbers or not. It's more of, it was the board viewpoint neutral and unbiased in its process of reviewing these applications. I will say it was not easy. I know it's not perfect, and there will be people who aren't happy. I will open up for debate. We also have two members of the SFAB board here that are available for questions as well.
All right, is there any other discussion at this time? Yes.
Treasurer Wiseman, I just have a question on some of the verbiage that you used in your description. You said that decisions were based on sometimes on good stewardship of the student fee. What does that exactly mean?
So like if you look at overarching stipulation number 1, miscategorized line items, that's kind of a standard every year, but like line number 2, expenses targeted at non-Purdue undergraduate students. We thought if the students were not the primary benefactor, that's probably not the best use of student fees and could go somewhere else. Similarly, those overarching stipulations 3 and 4. Those were some themes that the board saw throughout the applications that we felt if we didn't fund those, money could maybe go towards benefiting a larger group of students.
Any other discussion at this time? Pro Tem Dodonna.
One of my questions is, one of the overarching stipulations that events and initiatives that are purely social won't be funded. How does the board define purely social?
If there's not an educational component or another underlying component, one of the groups we asked, is this a party? Like that's a social event. It has to have some other component to it that the board could gather from either the presentation or the application. That is a good question, though.
Pro Tem Dodona.
I might be confused, so this is more of a clarification question. Is that a part of your guys' guidelines, that purely social element, or is that a stipulation that was added when you guys are sort of reducing down that number?
That was an added stipulation. So there are things in the guidelines that aren't funded every year, such as travel or giveaways in clothing. So those things are pulled out, but then the 4 things under overarching stipulation 1 were voted on for this year, based on what was seen throughout the applications.
Any other discussion? Pro Tem Dodona.
I think this is my last question. One of the parts of this document talks about SFAB reserving the right to maintain 0.2% of all funds it gathers for like board meetings, marketing, and like discretion of the board. Can you give a little more context of what that sort of money is used for, and if that percentage has like changed over the years, or like more context, I guess is what I'm asking for.
To my knowledge, the percentage has not changed, at least recently. The activity fee has gone up. It's directly correlated with enrollment. As we all know, enrollment has gone up. Those expenses are used, food for the meetings. SFAB meets over a whole weekend, so those meals are provided. Paying space for room rental, and then we also order like stickers to identify SFAB equipment, things like that, operational expenses.
Do you know how much money that is?
This year we budgeted $2,800. It's on like the very last page.
Thank you.
Very last line.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
This is less of a discussion on the document itself, but while we're talking about SFAB and specifically student fees, I know that there has been conversations surrounding advocacy for raising the student fee when it comes to being able to fund more things. Do you know where that conversation has went, or if that's still something that's up in discussion? I yield 2 minutes of my time to Dr. Kane.
Does this work?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there is conversations currently resides with the Vice Provost for Student Life. We have given documentation over the last couple of years. The COVID journey years is a little different, so prior to that and current on not just how much is allocated, how much is spent, those pieces, and what are the trends. So there can be a good case of why, right? Because it's easy to say we need more, we need more, we need more, but we know that many people may apply with the over budget in mind and what is the actual spend, right? So we do see students spending a lot more. Now, what will be interesting, and I don't know what the data will look like at the end of this year, we have a lot of requests. Were all of those able to be actualized, given that we only have so many spaces on campus and so many opportunities to do things, right? So we know that students in events and spaces and the cost for AV and those things, sometimes it doesn't always equal out. So we give them the opportunity to do so, and where do we see the majority of those costs being spent? So there is a graduate student in my office pays for that does all the behind the scenes. So Sean and committee don't have to. And they give us the data and break down the data, and then we give it to the VP. So it currently resides with her because she would need to make the request upward and have the data to do that.
Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we can now move to a vote on Bill 2256, but just as a reminder, any of those involved with an organization that has received SFAB funding, you cannot vote. So we already said that in the email, but just for a reminder. One quick point.
I think it's officers.
Officers.
Use your discretion, be careful, don't vote if you think that you shouldn't.
Avoid conflicts of interest.
All right, so All those in favor, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? All right, seeing none with a vote of 23 to 0 to 0, Bill 2256 passes. Congratulations, Sean and the SFAB board. Please mark that into SharePoint. I did forget to add that. And all new senators should be added in. Okay, moving on. Do I hear any other new business? Yes.
Motion to bring up Bill 2257.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2257, the reallocation of unspent original allocations for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. This bill is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote. We will begin with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. So would any of the authors wish to begin? Yes.
Just gonna speak. We shouldn't have brought this bill to the floor without a 10-minute recess due to our standing rules. So I believe, is Julia here? Yeah. What should we do? Yeah.
What exactly are we trying
So,
to accomplish?
because of our standing rules, this was sent out at around 5 p.m. today. We need to take a 10-minute recess to allow for people to look at the bill. That being said, generally we will suspend the rules to get rid of that 10-minute recess. But because this was brought to the floor before that 10-minute recess could happen because we forgot about it, what should we do?
So immediately is the main motion on the floor needs to die right now because you can't just call a recess if the motion's already been brought up. So you just have to vote. I don't know the scale right now. More so, probably vote to temporarily suspend. Sure.
I move to temporarily suspend this motion.
Second. Do we need a 2/3 vote? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Perfect. Yeah, go, one of you.
I move to suspend the rules of the Purdue Student Senate.
Second.
Also a majority vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, 10-minute recess.
No, we don't. No, anymore. Okay.
Rules suspend.
Yes.
I move to unsuspend Bill 2257.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. So now do we have to start all of the way back over? With okay. Okay. Sorry, Senator Terrell, were you about to speak?
Yeah, I was going to say President Jensen would love to answer any questions about this legislation.
I'll explain it a little bit first, sorry. So typically at the last Senate session of every single year, we have a bill like this, which is just a reallocation of all unspent funds. So really what that does is over the summer, historically Senate has not been in session. Over the past few years it has been, so there's that ability for us to kind of request to spend money and such. However, in the past historic years, there wasn't that. And so at the end it says pretty much after May 1st, these funds can only be spent by approval of the majority of active members of cabinet with final approval Final approval must come from the Purdue Student Government Advisors. That's how it is over the summer. However, before that, we're kind of just making it a little bit easier for people to spend money. There's a lot of maybe $100 in one budget, $100 in another, tied up in random areas of our budget. And so we're really just looking for ways of spending the whole budget because at the end of the year, that does go away. And so it makes it easier for you guys. All you have to do is go and ask Lily or Ellie or I or Izzy if you can spend money, and that's it. And then you can go spend it. And so really that just puts everything into a pool so we can spend it all.
To bring up on the floor some of the concerns that we're had in caucus so that everyone can be aware of them. again, something over 2,500 still can't be pulled from this. If it's a single project that still needs to go to the Senate floor, that doesn't bypass that ruling. Small grants have their last review, I believe, on April 14th, so that wouldn't impact small grants at all. And then as a whole, I think Pro Tem Ferguson and I talked about that if you want access to the money that are in your little pockets, you can still have access to that. If you have a plan for it that's still going to be able to be used by you, the sentiment is just to make it easier for everybody in an organization to access money that is sort of pit-pocked everywhere. This is honestly easier for everyone to access money rather than any sort of hindrance to that.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
Just to reiterate and clarify, this should not be a barrier to entry for anyone wanting to spend money in PSG. If anything, this is just going to make it a little bit easier for you all. If you do have any concerns about your pockets of money, please email Ellie, Izzy, and I, just so that we can make sure that we have that all squared away for you.
And please tell, and if this passes, please still tell Sean when you're spending money.
Yeah, just in case that point was lost. Tell Sean.
I guess it's kind of a Lily question since you're the one that asked it, that prompted my question, even though I'm literally an author. So say like a college that like had a little pocket of 75 and they didn't spend it. If they needed more money, so say they had an expense that was like 83, but their college had $0 for whatever reason, could they get that approved now since they'll have access to more than just the initial 75?
Pretty much that's the whole purpose of this, for lack of a better term.
Would somebody like to yield some time to Treasurer Wiseman? Yes.
I would love to yield 2 minutes of my time to Treasurer Wiseman.
Thank you. I think just to summarize, like the money is there, whether it's in your line item or not. PSG almost never runs out of all the money. So unless BOD and Senate both just decide to go crazy, you will have money for your event.
Any further discussion? Yes, Pro Tem Ferguson.
Treasurer Wiseman, just out of curiosity, what would this make this total pool of money look like? Like what quantity of money are we talking about?
My budget's not completely up to date, so ballpark about $30,000. But that's with having taken out what's been allocated for Lyft already. So PSG has about $50,000 in the account right now, but $20,000 of that is still set aside for Lyft. So $30,000 to spend.
So spend the money.
And if we don't hit that Lyft max, it'll go into that as well. But it's been already set aside by another bill.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
Question that could also be asked later. When are we looking at the timeline for that Lyft max, just as we're running out of Senate sessions?
I would say through finals week.
Yeah, through finals week. There's that allocation, and we're limiting the amount of money spent, but we've also been told by the university that if we go over that amount, that they are going to pay for that. So.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we can now move to a vote on Bill 2257. So all those in favor, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Please mark your vote into SharePoint, but with a vote of 25 to 0 to 0, Bill 2257 passes. So congratulations. Yes.
I move to reinstate the rules.
Second. Majority vote? Or, all right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Yay. Okay, do I hear any new business? Seeing none, we can now move into announcements. Do I hear any announcements at this time? Pro Tem Ferguson.
Just to reiterate what was said in my Pride update, please, please, please come to the block party tomorrow. If you guys have any questions at all, please come to me after the Senate session. I am more than happy to field any and all questions.
Yes.
Registration is open for the Be Involved Fair taking place on August 19th. So tell your organizations, tell your friends. It is on BoilerLink. If you have any questions, you can email me or just email SAO in general.
Perfect. Any further announcements? Okay, we can now move into Senate Snaps. So for any newcomers, Senate Snaps is a way to recognize the hard works of others within PSG. Does anyone have a Senate Snap? Yes.
I would like to give a Senate snap to Pro Tem Ferguson. I know you've been working really hard. I'm really proud of you. I'll be there tomorrow.
President Jensen.
Yeah, Senate snaps to everyone who sponsored my bill. Thanks for that. I know I messaged you guys last night at like 9:30 p.m. and then still talking to some people today, so thanks for that.
Yes, Pro Tem Ferguson.
Senate snaps to Dr. King and Mike for all of their hard work and help over break as well as in the past few weeks.
Any more Senate Snaps? Yes.
I'm actually going to have to give a second one to Pro Tem Ferguson because I had some family things that happened like before spring break, and she like carried CSRA. Like she was my go-to wing woman, and I just appreciated it, you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So God bless good Pro Temps.
Any further Senate Snaps? All right, seeing none, the chair would recognize a motion to adjourn. Yes, Pro Tem Dodona.
Madam Chair, I move that we do now adjourn.
Second.
All right, it's been properly motioned and seconded to adjourn the meeting. It's not amendable, not debatable, requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstention? The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.